Hello and welcome to the Real Eyes Realize podcast. I'm Christina Roberts Enneking, and I am so grateful to welcome you to this podcast where we witness life and service dancing together. In each episode, we feature everyday people creating ripple effects, actualizing love, aka real positive ripples in their families, communities, and our world at large. These are the sparks that inspire action, heart-centered service, and courageous truth-telling for us all. So wherever you are, walking, driving, or simply sitting still, we invite you to listen deeply, reflect openly, and join us in discovering the real ripple effects actualizing love in this world. Let's take a listen. Welcome to all of our listeners, Realize podcast. We have a very special episode for you all here today. We have a pair of friends that really have come together to bring together not only hopeful transformation, but also empowered possibility. And this is a friendship where both have taken a simultaneous leap from security to purpose and really helping to move with a shared belief that things like technology can actually amplify the human wisdom and our human experience. And so I'm super pumped to talk with both Marco Lamina and Michael Shehane. I'm going to give a little brief bio of Marco to begin with, and we'll do some questions, and then we'll move over to Michael. So Marco, you are bringing 15 years plus of Silicon Valley experience as a software engineer and really working with emerging AI technology. And my understanding is that you are at this opportunistic move where you've left tech and you're really looking to empower educators and democratizing transformational learning through AI. You also are a martial arts practitioner, black belt happening next year, and a musician. So that's pretty cool.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about when you think about your stepping stones, and we have so many in that bio, what are some things that you think have really framed you and how you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this idea that you brought up from safety to transformation. Is that what you said? That really resonated with me. The first stepping stone for me was definitely 2011. That was the first time that I left my hometown of Berlin to come to America. And I came here for a year-long internship. And that was the first time that I was really immersing myself into another culture, into another system, right? Completely just like out of my comfort zone. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I remember there was just, one thing that really stuck out was when I first arrived here in America, right? I had this, cubicle job as an intern. And so every morning I would, come to the office, and my boss at the time, Keith, he was such a nice guy. He really wanted to make me feel welcome. And every morning he stopped by my cubicle and was like, "How are you doing, Marco?" And so I would go and just tell him about my day. And because I was like, oh my God, he's so nice asking me about how I was doing. And I always saw this like really confused look on his face. And that happened a couple times. And I was like, why is this getting so awkward? And then, at one point I think I was riding a motorcycle or something. That's what I used to do to kind of like reflect, because California is just so beautiful, right? I remember just like having this epiphany of like, why do I find myself in these awkward moments, right? People ask me, about my day all the time, which never happens in Germany. And I had this realization, it's like, oh, they're not actually trying to hear how my day is going. They're just trying to establish some comfort. This question of how are you doing is not meant literally, but me with my German background, right? If someone asks me a question, I try to answer it, fully and not just kind of glance over it. And so that, I think, was the first moment where I realized, oh, I really have to shift my thinking, coming from this one culture to another culture. And that kind of like opened up the door to really shifting the way I see myself and how I see myself in the environment that I'm in. And I think that just continued to the present day, really.
Yeah. That's awesome. And we're going to really anchor in on that shifting learning and shifting thinking with what you are looking and doing right now. But I want to take a moment to also introduce Michael Shehane. And Michael, thank you also for being here. You two have teamed up in an exceptional way. And I also know from your background perspective, you've been an executive coach for 10 plus years. You actually have really been you've created not only your own company in Stride Leadership, but you also have expertise in linguistics and organizational psychology and learning theory at an educational level, at university level. And really, what we're finding in our conversations, this discovery about coaching and how coaching can be at its best, really supporting it with systematic feedback.
Yeah.
You also are a martial arts black belt. You met the two of you, I think, at your black belt studio. That's been 3 years, I think, what you had shared with me. And really looking to be a pioneer in AI and coaching for self improvement. So I'm curious, Michael, from your perspective, you've had quite a journey as well. What are the kinds of things that you have found really help to define you, especially when you're thinking about taking these leaps? It sounds like you've done that on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Well, I've known Marco for 10 years. 10 years. We
been a
survived
while.
the pandemic. We built a virtual dojo and everybody was doing karate on Zoom. And Marco helped me really champion that. So all of the students at Quantum Martial Arts, which is in San Francisco, were able to continue practicing the martial arts during the pandemic. We can talk about that later. Marco is from Germany. I actually, at age 20, decided to move to Germany to study at university so that I could learn German language. It
No
was
kidding.
a first time for me to leave the country and then live with a guest family and go to university classes. And I just remember going, what is happening here? Especially
Eye-opening
when
experience.
Especially when the teacher said, okay, let's do a talent show. And it was a whole bunch of Americans that were at the university learning German together. And I said, okay, the best way to motivate a whole bunch of Americans to do a talent show is to have prizes. Let's have a $10 gift certificate to McDonald's or something like that. And I just remember the German teacher, Sylvia, in German going, Blöde Amerikaner. It's like, stupid Americans, why do you always need to have money as a motivation? And I was just sitting there going, what? Huh? What's going on? And
Yeah.
something similar to what Marco was explaining, that shift happened in which I had to sit there and reflect, like, I was just trying to help out. Why didn't that resonate?
Mm.
I left Germany, went back, finished university, decided to move to Japan. And, maybe this is a story about like really awkward moments or the moments, because I remember being on the train, having a great conversation with another American and this Japanese guy coming up to us and just yelling at us for being so loud on the train. And you just sit there and you're like, wait, what's going on? I've never been scolded. And usually Japanese people are so quiet and nice. What is happening here? And it starts this internal investigation. And you realize, there's cultural differences here. How can I be respectful? How can I take this moment to learn, reflect, and then show that I have learned that lesson?
Right.
So with that understanding, that's how I started my executive coaching business. Is I started to coach a lot of at tech in Silicon Valley, a lot of non-native speakers of English, those people who have decided to come on visa to work at some of these big tech companies. And they were experiencing some of these friction moments as they tried to step into the leadership roles at these companies, but then hitting these moments of like, what is going on? What is happening? And with my language education, meaning I got a master's degree in TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages at San Francisco State University. Wonderful program. I learned the tools to be able to help these leaders not only communicate effectively, pronunciation to thought structure, but also how to handle those moments where that's friction. Is there a moment where you're so confused, but then is there a lesson to be learned that can help you move forward? And people gravitated towards it. I went from company to company, helping people. And of course, at one point, I took a chance and actually coached somebody who's a native speaker of English, an American. And you know what? Same approach works. That kind of compassion, that kind of safe space to help people reflect and take the lesson, but also remain true to themselves. And every
It's
time I get to
important.
coach somebody, I love it.
Yeah. And I know how much you put into that, and Marco, you as well, given that there's a technological aspect of this. And so I'm curious, and I'm going to go to you, Marco, on this one. Tell us a little bit about the two of you conversation around what could be created when you think about the technological aspect, but also just really improving. What I'm hearing from both of you is this shift in thinking, moving past awkward moments, and also being able to really drive towards clarity. How did that
Yeah.
happen?
How did that happen? I think it was a gradual process, really, where I discovered, or rather, I've been a techie at heart always,
Mhm.
right? I love technology and I was always fascinated with it. But, as I said, a long time ago, I had to start this journey of transformation, right? Moving over here, rediscovering myself, finding out what my life is all about. And as a part of that, and as part of our training also, I realized it's not just about building something, it's about what do you do with the technology, right? How does the technology benefit humans? And so we found ourselves on this inflection point where I realized, I was working in corporate for 8 years, and I just kind of had it. It was not making me happy anymore, and I really wanted to build something that matters.
Mm.
So I started experimenting and failed and failed and failed and failed. Eventually, Michael had a transition in his career as well, and we were like, hey, why don't we figure this out together, right?
Yeah.
Because he's really good at what he does. And
Yeah.
AI came along, and in that moment, he was like, how can I use AI to, become a better coach and to help transformation? And I was like, I'm your guy, like, let's build this together. And that really set us on the path that we are today. As you might remember, we started out thinking about podcasts and how we can create AI podcasts to help people in their coaching. And we explored that idea, which then didn't work out. But we iterated,
Yeah.
and now we finally at a point where we have something that we're proud of. And
Mm.
it shows, like, this is really, really cool. And
Yeah.
so that's what motivates us, is just
That's
to
really
see
cool.
how technology can really amplify this human wisdom that's in coaching.
Yeah, yeah. And then we'll get more into JourneyLoop.ai, which is this platform. And I'm just curious too, Michael, when you were thinking, here you are, you're working with coaching clients. And what I kind of understand is this is a real pivot moment of how do we improve coaches in their experience and in their own transformation. So what was it that you were seeking with this platform that could really be a game changer and be a differentiator from what you saw out there?
As a storyteller, I think I can share a story that can represent why I think AI can help coaches become better coaches. And that is from Marco encouraging me to use the technology, because at first I just got very skeptical. I was like, there's nothing better than human connection. Yeah, we might be joining through Zoom or Google Meet, but the ability to talk with a person, to listen to them, paraphrase it back, like, what does AI have to offer? And he was like, no, dude, you need to look at this. This is the future. And I drug my heels. I got on and I started experimenting. And this year, with that pivot in my own career of starting my own business, I had one client.
Mhm.
Her name is Teresa, and she's brilliant, beautiful. And she asked me, somebody who can be a little insecure at times, she asked me to help her build a presentation, a talk in front for 2,000 people.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, tactics, tactics, tactics. Like, let's build out the introduction. Let's build out some stories. Let's build out a main message that we can have a through line all the way through it. And then the people in the audience will give you a round of applause, and it will be an amazing thing for your career. It will be an amazing thing for my career. We're going to do this. So we met up for those coaching sessions, and third coaching session, I transcribed all of them. I was like, okay, I think I can use ChatGPT if I upload the transcripts and I have them cut from Teresa's verbatim transcript some stories, then I can really mold those stories and then bring value to the conversation. And so as I was doing that on ChatGPT, I had this moment of reflection. What about in these coaching transcripts? I don't focus 100% on Teresa and what she's saying. How am I as a coach showing up? And there was that moment. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because what about if it's something that is going to like reveal how maybe I'm not the best coach, or I could have done this better and then I would have felt bad. And then I'm starting this new company. Would I just give up? I was like, Michael, be brave. I wrote a prompt, pressed enter, and it said, you're doing great as a coach. Here's one thing that you could do to improve. Over the last 3 coaching sessions, Teresa has admitted that she's a little bit scared of doing this presentation. She's concerned, will this presentation increase her reputation? And every time she mentions something, you've kind of just moved along. You said, no, don't worry about that, or you're going to be great, but you didn't acknowledge her emotions. And at that, I was like, oh, that's really great feedback. Nobody usually watches me coach. I just do my thing. It's one-on-one relationship. I decided at that moment in the next coaching session with Teresa to just bring that up right at the beginning. I said, I used ChatGPT. It analyzed the transcripts. It pointed out this thing that I'm not doing, and I want to make space for it. How are you feeling about this? And she was like, wow, okay, let's dig into it.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and I think that helped her embrace standing up in front of 2,000 people even more, to stand up there, challenge herself that she has value to bring to the audience, that she could do that, to be able to master her own self-narratives around being vulnerable. And AI has this moment. We are at this precipice where AI, people are kind of wondering, what is it for? It's valuable. I get some polished emails from it, but is that all?
Yeah.
And I see this opportunity of having AI, if you feed it real raw information, human connection, that transcript has words, it has moments, it has pauses, it has revelations that are sometimes missed or not looked at, or things can be inferred, but those blind spots are there. And if we turn the AI towards us to be able to understand ourselves more, if we do that as coaches, that's going to not only benefit us to become better coaches, it's also going to benefit the clients that we serve.
And that sounds like that moment of that aha of like, oh, like I actually want to pay attention to that, and then bringing that forward and then creating the space for that pivot. I mean, that's going to be something that you will always be thinking of as you're engaging with future clients. And so those ahas, it sounds like, was something that was able to kind of be there for you and really support not only you, but also, like you said, your client. One of the things, and Marco, I'm going to ask you on this one, you mentioned technology and that you really wanted to see this platform amplify human wisdom and not replace it. And I think there is sometimes fear around, some of the AI tools and whether or not they are replacing, people in that interaction. We see how powerful it is from what Michael just shared. What are your thoughts on how it can amplify human wisdom? What does that look like, feel like?
Yeah, great question. You said amplify, not replace. I think that's a very central concept, right? So when I think people think about coaching AI and technology right now, there's a few different avenues, right? One of them is you can take a lot of, as Michael said, raw data and say, here's my coaching, create an AI coach. Yep. And that to me or to us seems very dangerous, because AI creates this illusion of human connection, right? When you talk to ChatGPT, it feels like a person. Nowadays, it sounds like a person. And at one point, you're not going to be able to differentiate anymore. Am I talking to the person? And you are in this illusion. And if you create an AI coach, you are trapped in this illusion and you just trust, which is a problem, right? How can you trust AI? That's a big question that we're asking. And so our approach really is to say we need to base everything in evidence. If we give you an insight, or if we say something about you personally, right? It's a very vulnerable space. If we say, hey, you keep doing this thing and you should change it, why should you trust the AI? And so every time we give you an insight or we make any assumptions, we say, here's why we do that. And so we distill everything into stories, right? Because we're creatures of stories. Everyone loves a good story, right? We're made of stories. And so that is the approach that we take, where we say we have all of this huge amount of information and we turn them into something that is approachable, but you don't have to trust what we create. You can always verify.
That sounds important. That verify and inquiry is a really vital part of the engagement. And here it's just another actor in the midst that is also helping to be a bit of a narrative or a narrator in the story.
Sense of safety and trust is really, really important to us.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know that is so much of your intentionality in building this, and also in really helping to pilot with people so that there is that trust that can be built up through experiential wisdom and experiences together. So
absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. When you think about this platform, because that has been such an intention of yours, creating these safe spaces for coaches and clients to really get into a lot of vulnerability, right? Sometimes the depth of like what's holding them back or self-sabotaging them. I guess, how do you see this as a platform that can support those safe spaces when there's so much concern about privacy and some of those other aspects?
Yeah, I mean, privacy is always the first thing that comes up, right? We get these questions all the time. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and also how to really create a sense of trust. And, one thing that always comes up for me is we're already using a lot of technology nowadays, right? I mean, AI is just another technology, but if you think about Gmail, Google knows everything about you and everyone uses Gmail, right? And so, but no one questions it. No one second guesses it. Google has all of your information. Same with ChatGPT. I mean, there is so much vulnerability in just using ChatGPT. And so do you trust Sam Altman? Do you trust OpenAI? Right? That's kind of what it comes down to for me, is you make a choice by trusting creators of technology. And that is how you shape the future of AI, is by putting your trust and frankly your money in companies that you trust, that you think are trustworthy. So we want to be a company that you can trust. And why would you trust us? And I think there's two reasons, right? Michael, I mean, has a long history of coaching and leadership and transforming people. He really knows what coaching is about and what human transformation is about and what matters and what's important. And I've worked in the industry for 15 years, the past 8 years at a big enterprise company where we had huge enterprise customers, where privacy and data security were at the forefront of everything that we've built. So I'm very aware of how to build systems that are safe, secure, and these sorts of things. And so I think together we can really create something that people can trust.
And it sounds too like you may utilize an AI agent. For example, if ChatGPT is the one being utilized to look at transcripts and whatnot to kind of glean, transformational nuggets that will support somebody's own growth. And then is any of that anonymized, or, any of that kind of action? Or is that something that the coach has to do themselves? What are your thoughts on that?
So nothing is actually anonymized, right? Because we want to create personal transformation. So it needs to be very personal. So what we do is we record all of your coaching sessions. And like that brings me to another aspect. We want technology to just disappear in the background. I think AI creates this great opportunity for us to really support us in ways that we haven't even thought of. It should just disappear and give me the right information, the right insights at the right time, right when I need them.
Yeah.
Right. And so one example is, coaches have so many sessions every day, right? Every morning they wake up and they're like, okay, I'm coaching 3 people today. I need to go through my notes and figure out what was important to them. Did they have any milestones? What did we talk about? What should I bring up again in order to show up for this session prepared and prepared to support them, right? And so we can use AI to really go back and look through all the data and give you that information right when you need it, so that you can, be relaxed and not feel frazzled or stressed out, but you have the information that you need and you can trust the technology that it will support you.
Yeah. I think too, what I hear in that is that the growth and the transformation can be that much more accelerated because you're not kind of taking, a step back in order to take a couple steps forward. You really are each session springboard off of the last. And then it's this ability to really take a look at those patterns. And you don't really have opportunities to put that into action in between those sessions and then really reflect back, which I think is really key.
Exactly. And it's very personalized and very nuanced, which just gives it a bit of an eerie feeling sometimes. Like when I look at my own data, I'm like, oh my God, this is just like, it really gets to me, right? But that is exactly what we want, is is for people to be like, wow, I feel vulnerable and seen right now, and this is coming from technology. And that's really special.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. And Michael, I want to when you think about coaching engagements, I know that there's oftentimes the analogy that's brought up around like that, and even like martial arts, right? This push-pull effect. So I'm curious if there's anything when you think about these engagements and this push-pull that does bring it to like martial arts. And when you think about getting to mastery, what is part of that journey from your perspective?
14 years at this dojo, 10 years to get to black belt. And part of it is community. I would not be able to have gotten where I've gotten unless there had been people to push off of.
Mm-hmm.
Marco and I have spent hours on the dojo mat sparring. I think you've delivered some punches towards my face and kicked me in the stomach. And it's really paying attention to what happens in that moment. Do I keep my cool and calm, or do I just go ballistic? And Marco has been on the other side of me just working out a lot of issues. When
it goes both ways.
And that kind, compassionate way of being there for each other as we practice the techniques that we drill over and over and over again. And it is an accumulation of all of those experiences and enlisting people to pay attention to this narrative that we're building as we go through white, yellow, green, blue, red, black belt. And asking them, can you hold me accountable to what we're trying to do here? And that is to reach mastery using the technique at the right time, at the right speed, that counterbalances whatever is being thrown our way, and to keep that other person safe. Because definitely, if there's anybody out there that is thinking about doing martial arts, it is not about attacking other people. It is about keeping them safe as they have a triggered moment, and believing that by depositing energy onto your body, they're going to be able to get what they want. And we've all been there. We have this very fight or flight response moment, and it's keeping them safe. And that is a lot of what I do within coaching.
Yeah.
As we were explaining, talking about, a lot of the people that I coach are very frustrated. They're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this perception of their own cultural values, or they are trying to navigate a hierarchical system. And it's frustrating to keep on hitting that wall over and over again. And to be able to create a safe space for them to spar with those perceptions, to be able to get triggered and to be able to go, this is unfair, and to have somebody listen and be there for them as they figure it out, and just be able to ask, what do you want to do moving forward? Would you like to continue with this frustration, this story that you have that maybe might not benefit you in the long run? Or do you want to think about how you can break off a chunk of that goal that you have for yourself and practice that over this next week or 2 weeks before we meet again? And thank goodness I have this experience, this embodied experience with martial arts, to be able to translate that over to my coaching. But then also my coaching then influences my sparring, which then influences the people that I'm working with, which influences the community, which then influences, hopefully, the larger world.
Yeah.
I think AI amplifies that.
Yeah.
It really can help not move you faster, but give you a reflection tool to be able to just really own your narrative where you are right now without judgment.
I love, that whole without judgment, I think is really important, to be able to have that space of reflection as well. And there's a tool of sorts that gets to be a non-judgmental mirror, and that allows us to see deeper. And I think that there's also some safety in that, that that it's really in your best interest. And so I'm curious too, Marco, when you were talking about kind of this deeper experiences and designing something for deeper transformation. And as Michael so eloquently talked about, this ripple effect, if you will, that you take care of yourself, you take care of who you're with, that then goes out to the greater community, and then boy, to the greater world at large. What are the kinds of things that you are hoping for, wishing for, when you think about deeper transformation and the own ripple effects that you are looking to create and make in the world?
What else am I hoping for? I'm hoping that other creators of technology kind of feel inspired by what we're trying to do, right? Because I see a lot of the old mindsets with just the add-on of AI,
Mhm.
right? For example, one thing is, the way we've evaluated performance or people, especially in the enterprise realm, is by taking all of the data and turning it into numbers and saying, okay, we have these KPIs, and if you just do what we want you to do, you can increase this number, and then you get a raise, and then you're a better human being. And now they're just using AI to do the same thing. And I think we should stop doing that. We should take a step back and think about how can we use AI to actually, think about the human potential and how to grow that potential. Because no one wants to be a number in a system, right? So it's really important to us that we get away from progress bars and numbers that increase over time and statistics, because that just doesn't feel good, right? But if
Yeah.
you read a story about yourself, which is this unique thing that we can now do, is tell stories about the data that we have. It's so much more relatable and helps everyone all around. So
There's
that
so many nuances, right? And there's so
so
much more
nuanced,
color that's
yeah,
involved in
and
it. Yeah.
relatable, and it makes you feel something, right? Looking at a statistic of your past, it doesn't make you feel anything other than maybe bad, right? And so I'm really hoping that we can create this shift in mindset of how we use technology now.
I love that. That's awesome. And Michael, when you think about what you would either like to see more of or less of in the world, and how this particular platform can help to support some of that more genuine humanhood, um, what does that look like in terms of what you would like to amplify? What would you like to see more of, as an example?
I think everybody kind of secretly wants to know what other people think about them.
But in
My
a safe,
goal,
non-judgmental space, right?
uh, and after 25 years of teaching in the classroom, facilitating workshops, coaching, this is a deep need that people have. And during coaching, holding that safe space for somebody to reveal. Like, I do a lot of interview coaching and people say, well, I want the job because I can make a boatload of money. And you're like, all right, love that truth for you. Yeah. Security from money. Yeah, awesome. I want that for you too.
Yeah.
But what else do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And will that job be able to give you those deeper needs? And for people to go, oh, wait, I'd rather do what I'm passionate about, even though I might make less money, I can show up and be present. I am seeing that transformation happen before my eyes. And then the client reaches out to me 4, 5, 6 months later and goes, that was so important because every day I get to go and do this. And I don't have to have that pep talk with myself about how to show up and be performative to be able to get that money. I can actually just do what I enjoy. And if I can provide that space for my clients, AI can then keep me honest. Like, is that what the AI is perceiving based on this conversation, and provide maybe another take, or it reinforces that interpretation. So now the client has 2 pieces of information as reference points to make better choices for themselves. I don't want to tell people what to do, but I can be an honest mirror to them and have AI as an accountability buddy for being that honest mirror. And if people see and appreciate that, well, then that ripples out for the client. But the wonderful thing about what Marco and I are building with JourneyLoop is that the transcripts are interpreted not only for the client, but also for the coach. The coach is also getting feedback based on the transcripts, and they are growing and being challenged. What could they do better as a coach? And that is where we really want to share this platform with as many coaches as possible. See what happens when you upload a transcript. Does it confirm your narrative that you have already, or does it make you question and make you think twice about what you're doing in your coaching sessions? And if you, as a coach, are brave enough to be able to do that, I think you're going to show up even more so for your clients, and to be fully seen for who you are, all of your messiness, that authenticity, that strengths, your trouble spots, your growth areas. If everybody in the world could do that, there are a few people in my mind that I'm coming up with who are in positions of power. And do they have that type of accountability?
Yeah. I love that. Because what I'm hearing too is in this, like, there's almost like a leveling, a level playing ground where, and I love what you said, like as a coach, you're not looking to tell people what to do. You're not looking to assume that you have all the answers, but how do you be an agent to support that inquiry so it is coming from the individual themselves, and that this is like, we're all growing in our journey together. And this just gets to be a supportive, helpful tool. So that, I think that describes things in a really clear way. And thank you for pointing that out. So Marco, tell us a little bit more about JourneyLoop.ai, how people can get involved. What are you hoping for in terms of people to really start to adopt it so that you also can be continuing to grow with the feedback and continuing to develop something really special?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still very early days, right? But as we said earlier, we're really trying to create an environment where people can feel safe and vulnerable in, the realm of coaching, both the clients and the coaches, and embrace, as Michael called it, this messiness, right? Embrace this mirror, because it takes some bravery to first of all say, I'm okay recording all of this, right? That is one big hurdle that we're fighting. People are still afraid of that, and we want to change that narrative to say, you actually get a lot of benefits, and you can do it in a safe way if you trust what we do, right? So that is the one thing. And then really to encourage people to be brave, because it feels really uncomfortable to have technology tell you hey, you keep doing this thing and it's not benefiting either you or your client. And I mean, Michael knows this firsthand, right? It really takes some guts to read this and overcome it and to say, yes, I'm doing that. And yes, I want to change that. But once you do, it feels amazing. And you actually transform and you help people transform. So to come back to your question, we want to invite people to do this with us, right?
Yeah.
We have a few pilot coaches right now, but there's really these hurdles that we need to overcome, and we need people to come on board, try it out, give us feedback, and then also spread the word and say, yes, this is how you use AI today.
And this particular tool and how it's really supported. Those realizations that sound like it happen on a personal level, but also on a collective or a partnership with your client.
Exactly.
Okay, that's awesome. And so we will put how to connect with the two of you in our show notes. We'll also highlight JourneyLoop.ai for people to be able to actually sign up to get, to start it, to help to pilot it with you.
Yeah.
Because I think my experience has been very, very straightforward and easy. It's not a high learning curve in terms of coming up to speed. It really supports you. There's so much that's happening behind the scenes that is just supporting the coach and the client.
As easy as just dropping in your transcript and everything will happen automatically. We really try to make it super approachable and easy to use. You don't have to be a techie, right? Or even, you don't even have to have a transcript, right? If you have virtual meetings, you can use it now. You just drop your meeting link, we'll come record your meeting and give you the analysis, and that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's great. Well, I know that the other thing, I just wanted to kind of get to summary here, but one of the things that we talked about was it being a mirror. And I know, Michael, you talked about that as well, of having a mirror for ourselves. We are going to be putting out in our coaching hub, our resource guide, kind of a coach's post-session reflection guide. And I don't know if that is as many like questions that you would find Journey Loop also goes through. What I find is interesting, and I don't know if, Michael, this goes to you or Marco, that there's a psychological part of the design in this tool, like looking at psychology of individuals. So before we kind of leave Journey Loop, I'm just curious if there's anything else you wanted to highlight around that.
I think transformation starts with awareness, and awareness requires you to be vulnerable. And as a person trained in linguistics, to have words that accurately represent what's in your head, that takes iteration. It takes practice. Sometimes you say it and the coach paraphrases it back and you're like, and that's not quite it. Here, try again.
Yeah.
And then the coach paraphrases it back. And then finally, through a whole slew of coaching sessions, you finally find the words that accurately represent what's going on in your head. Journey Loop is another way to put a mirror on that process because it is text-based as of right now. In the future, who knows? It could be even incorporating video. It could be incorporating body language and a deeper analysis of your pacing, your tone as a way to give you a better understanding of yourself. And right now, it is that added reflection and iteration that allows people, I think, to really find their narrative, to really find what is the story that they're telling themselves, and is that the story that they want to have for themselves? And is that what's going to help them move forward in their careers? I know for myself, when I was doing my analysis of Teresa and said, you kind of brush over the emotions, I started to not only see that in my own coaching, I started to see it in other aspects of my life. I started to see it with my relationship to my 14-year-old partner, not 14-year-old.
I was like, oh my God, Michael.
Your partner of 14 years, adult.
Partnership of 14 years. There we go. We got that one right. I'm a communication coach, if you didn't realize. What a gaffe. And also in my business relationships, me just trying to push past emotions to be able to keep things business. And it just wasn't feeding me. So I'm hoping that story resonates with people who are listening to this and they see that AI is a tool, there are going to be a lot of tools out there that just want you to pay money and will give you things. But this idea that AI is a tool for your own reflection and your own transformational growth is one that I hope survives in the marketplace of ideas.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And that's really, truly why I wanted to take this opportunity to amplify the two of you, because I know where it's coming from, right? The two of you have such integrity as well as that compassion for how things are utilized, how tools are utilized for good. And so I really appreciate that. And thank you for your time today. We're going to end it with a couple of collective questions, kind of spontaneous, off the hip. And I'll just go kind of back and forth between the two of you and ask each of you a different question. So I'm going to go ahead and start first with you, Marco. And just curious, what are you currently reading or watching?
What am I currently reading or watching? I am watching a show called Foundation, which is a sci-fi show, and it's about the idea of how would humanity transform if we went intergalactic over the course of hundreds and thousands of years. So fascinating. Highly
Amazing.
recommend it. It's like Game of Thrones in space.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it because it taps into the futurist mind that you have, just in terms of that, what could happen, what could be.
Absolutely.
Cool. So Michael, for you, what or who inspires you most and why?
Who inspires me the most? My mom right now.
Yeah. Why is
Uh,
that?
my dad passed away earlier this year, and it was just my mom, me, right there at his bedside for the last 2 weeks. And we moved through those 2 weeks, and it was tough to watch because they had a love relationship of 62 years, and being witness to them saying goodbye to each other and putting myself in the situation of my dad, putting myself in the situation of my mom, going, oh my God, this is my future. And then getting really scared for my mom. How is she going to handle the grief? What does grief look like at age 80? And the last 6 months, I'm not going to kid you, have been tough. A
Yeah.
lot of crying, a lot of hurt feelings of being left behind. But then this past weekend, she was in the right moment at the right place at the right time. I called her and I asked how she was doing. And we talked about dad in a way that she started to move forward,
Well,
in a life without him. And I was just like, I started crying. I was like, wait, it's happening. Wait, but you're letting go. But at the same time, you're moving forward. And
well,
somebody doing that transformational work,
yeah.
super inspiring.
Exactly. Super inspiring. I want to hold space for that because that is what an amazing testimonial that you have in your life to somebody who's really being courageous and brave and identifying how to move forward one step at a time.
So much hope. Like if those people who are really struggling and they turn a corner, how much it just reminds to those people who might not be in stuck mode just as of yet, but when they get there, yes, they can move forward.
Yeah, you've got an example of that. I love that. I'm Marco, for you, when you think about, you've had a lot of like the transformational ups and downs. What do you do to keep your spark lit when you're in the ups and downs of being human? What are your outlets?
What are my outlets? I mean, going to the dojo, honestly. Even on those days where I feel like staying at home and not doing anything. Just because I have established the practice, I know this is good for me, even though everything inside of me screams, I don't want to see people, I don't want to talk to people. But the most amazing thing is to know that I have that place that I can show up in no matter how I feel. If I come there and I'm grumpy, I first of all know that the people there, they know me.
Yeah.
And they know not to take it personally. And that makes me feel really safe. But also, I know that once I step on the mat, I need to hold myself accountable to not get angry with people, to not snap at them. And they will hold me accountable. So I can go there, be myself, even though I don't feel like it, and just still go through the motions. And I know that every time I do that, afterwards, I feel re-inspired, I feel rejuvenated. And that is what keeps the spark alive.
That's awesome. That's so good. Well, and I oftentimes will end this with, what are you most grateful for today? So, Marco, I'll go to you, and then Michael, and then I'll close it out. So, Marco, what are you most grateful for today?
I am most grateful for my partner, Caitlin, to support me in this journey that I'm on. I am making no money at the moment. I quit my job 5 months ago without knowing what's going to happen. And it's been an emotional roller coaster, and she's been there for me and supporting me all the way. So thank you, Caitlin. I love you.
That's awesome. Michael, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
Community. Community is how we learn and grow. If you try to navigate the complexities of the business culture, society in general, and it's like you against the world, and you are thinking that you have to learn all of these lessons and secrets behind closed doors, stop. Let me just tell you, stop. There are people
Don't
out
do that.
there who are on a similar journey. They
Amen.
are wanting to grow and learn and be accountable for the higher sense of themselves. And when you get into that community, you push pull, you are learning, bouncing ideas off of them. And that is a loop. It's a feedback loop, a positive feedback loop that allows you to grow. And it is exponential.
Yeah.
I hope everybody can find the community to be able to do that, whether it's professional community, your family, a group of friends, and those habits that you build become a part of your identity, become a part of your narrative. And I want to thank all of the communities that I've belonged to over the years, from San Francisco State to my friends back in Japan, to my friends back in Germany, to the karate dojo, and this community of coaches that are here just ready to learn and grow, to be there for their clients.
Awesome. Thank you both. And what I'm finding in this ending of this podcast is my gratitude is for the two of you to help to emulate that it is actually a beautiful thing to have courage over comfort, to continue to move through the navigation of what it feels like to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure. And then that discomfort that can happen, and then just to continue to show up. And I've noticed that in our conversations over the past, few months and years, as well as just today. So I'm really grateful for the courage that you both embody. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
All right. Take care. And for more, we'll give you notes in our podcast notes so that you can understand how to get in touch with Marco or Michael for JourneyLoop.ai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another impactful conversation on the Real Eyes Realize podcast. We hope the stories shared today spark reflection, courage, and love in your own journey. Stay connected with us at realize.love and on our social channels, where you will find resources, guest highlights, and ways to keep creating ripple effects of love in the world. And if you know someone with a story worth sharing, we would love to hear from you. Until next time, be true, be bold, be real, and be you.